think we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Leanne West, and I am the Chief Engineer of Pediatric Technology at Georgia Tech. And today's Tech Talk has a very special guest, Wang, who works here at Georgia Tech, and she's going to be talking about AI in healthcare and pediatrics. And so, May, could you do a little introduction of yourself?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I am May Wang, a professor in the Joint Biomedical Engineering Department of Georgia Tech and Emory University. I'm the Director of Biomedical Big Data Initiative, as well as the Board Director for American Board of AI in Medicine. I'm so happy to have a chance to talk to you guys today.
Thank you. We're excited to have you too. So, why don't you give us a little bit of an overview about what your lab does in AI, particularly in the healthcare space?
So I have been a professor here for more than 20 years. So we have been focusing on biomedical AI. We call it STAR AI: safe, trustworthy, actionable, and responsible AI. We largely handle the diseases ranging from acute disease, such as in the ICU setting, to chronic condition, such as the diabetes, those kind of the neurodevelopmental challenges, as well as the genetic diseases by working on multimodality biomedical data analytics.
Wonderful. So, okay, so we want to talk today a little bit about what you have going on with a couple of the children's hospitals that we often work with. One is Shriners Healthcare and one is Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. And I thought that we could talk about those a little bit. What kind of projects do you have going on? So why don't we start with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta? I know that you have a big project, I think, that is getting ready to start. And maybe you can just tell us a little bit about that, maybe what you're looking to do.
For the Children's Healthcare in Atlanta, it's actually we have been working on related to diseases category I share with you. We have been working on the acute disease, for example, cardiac intensive care unit. How do we actually make a real-time decision to help save kids who are getting out of cardiac surgery? And because the first 24 hours is very critical, we need to rank the test being done so the kids can be saved. Meanwhile, we have also been working on the genetic disease. So for example, like a sickle cell disease. A lot of kids who have a sickle cell attack have to be shipped to the Atlanta major children's hospital from a very rural, remote area by helicopter when they have an attack. What we have been doing is using genetic profile, develop a home-based pain tracking system that was monitored by the nurse, so that when the kids, the pain started having increasing, we can actually have an early intervention to reduce that kind of episode. We also have been working on the chronic condition for the kids. So when we're working on the diabetes, the asthma, those kind of conditions, same thing. We're doing a combined solution, not only on the data analytics for AI, but also in using some of the, even the sensors to do home-based monitoring. Among all of those, I would also highlight one of the major pediatric challenge, rare disease. So how do you do a rare disease with advanced AI? Usually we call it one-shot learning or few-shot learning. When you don't have a large amount of data, you can still handle it, such as a heart transplant.
Okay, and so you're looking at all of this data. So help me again. So what data are you looking at? You're looking at wearable sensor data. You're looking at.
We're looking at multimodality data ranging from electronic medical record. By the way, within electronic record, we actually developed two kinds of model. One is for structured data, like a demographic age lab result. Meanwhile, we do a lot of using natural language processing, NLP, and the large language model, the ChatGPT type for unstructured clinical notes. Mm-hmm. And in addition to that, we definitely work a lot on the genetics data, because a lot of genetic condition, all the rare disease, we're looking at the genetic marker. So we work on like millions, those kind of high throughput omic data, using the prototype we developed for FDA in the medical genomics. And then we work a lot on the medical imaging data, histopathology imaging data for diagnosis, as well as even the general photographic images for craniofacial kind of diseases, the imaging analysis for better treatment planning. And last piece is we work a huge amount of physiological signal data in the intensive care unit, the bedmaster, as well as the Fitbit for home-based tracking.
Okay, good. And so from all of that data, what you were trying to figure out for Children's Healthcare of Atlanta is with these cardiac patients, what is your main goal with looking at data? What are you looking for? What are you trying to figure out?
So traditionally, for example, for the cardiac intensive care unit data, most of the data are wasted. They came to the ICU, then they're dumped. So what we have been trying to help them is go ahead and archive those data, because before a cardiac arrest happening, I experienced the ICU physician can actually looking at the monitor, start detecting something will happen. Unfortunately, in the past, those data are being trashed. Now we help them to archive those. Then we go ahead and research the data, pick up the early sign for early detection of cardiac arrest. That's just one example among all those kind of projects.
Yeah, so I love that. And it's so, bad to hear as a data scientist, as a scientist in general, that you're throwing away all of this great data that could be used. Yeah, that's just amazing. So I'm super glad that you've talked them into saving the data so that we can look at it, because I think there are so many things there that we will be able to pick out before they happen if that data is available to look at. So wonderful on that. And so I know you're also working with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. I'm sorry, you're also working with Shriners Hospitals, and they have a lot of different hospitals around the country. So it's not just one facility or one hospital. And so tell us a little bit about what you've been doing for them.
So to talk about that, I do want to share a little bit about my background. So before I'm a Georgia Tech alum, but after I received my PhD, I work in industry, multimedia computing for communication for years before I was recruited back to be a professor. So there's one thing always critical in industry, which is now in my blood, which is we have to harmonize the data, have high quality data, which happen to be the major challenges a lot of health system face, including Shrine. Shriner has 21 hospitals sitting in US, Canada, and Mexico. Even they're treating the same kind of diseases, for example, like sclerosis or the craniofacial disease, they have not been able to pull their data together because every site manage their own data. So the number one, the fundamental thing I have been helping them to do is, based on my industrial experience, I always working on the harmonization using a standard. So I have been helping CDC develop the first public health, the first ever Smart on Fire, the app, helping CDC harmonize 57 jurisdiction data. So what I did to Shrine is I'm bringing that experience to Shrine. I'm the one currently helping them upgrade their current clinical informatics infrastructure from like OMAP upgrade to FHIR. So we have been already developed the basic FHIR resource. So now the Shrine, their headquarters in Tampa, is able to get all the data from different sites, going to putting into this centralized clinical informatic infrastructure. Going forward, all sites can go ahead, retrieve the patient cohort from the joint, the data archive based on the new standard FHIR. FHIR stands for Fast Health Interoperability Resource.
Yes, thank you for explaining what that is. So it's essentially the standard by which you can access data in the healthcare system with the EHR, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Yeah, so you're making it possible for Shriners to bring all of their data to look at. And so once we do that, what kind of things do you think are possible to do when you have all of that data brought together? What can you learn about their patients? What can you do for them?
So that's actually is the foundation project, and because of that foundation was established, we have already helped the Shrine in taking care of three very novel, I call it clinical implementation science in AI. So the first one is I just mentioned about the multimodality data. When we are working with Children's Healthcare Atlanta, most of them are still most likely safe contained with a physiological combining with EHR. However, with Shrine, we are able to first time to really integrate multimodality data. So basically, it's not only we have EHR data, but also we have imaging data, and we also have genetics data. So this is the first time for the same patient cohort, we're able to bring the molecular profile with the imaging diagnosis, with the clinical phenotyping to do that. That's one novel project we have been doing for prediction. Second novel project we're doing with Shrine is multi-site. Rare with the Children's Hospital Atlanta is very concentrated to one site. With Shrine, we are able to work on multiple sites. By doing that, we're addressing one of the key challenges. That's what I was mentioning about STAR, which is a lot of time when you have data coming from one site is biased because of the local demographic distribution of your patient cohort. By working on multiple cohort, we're able to do a real, what we call the responsible AI, where we're able to take care of this, the bias contributing by each side jointly together to handle that. That's the second major innovation we have been doing with Shrine. The third major innovation we have been doing is, many of you probably have already heard something called the clinical decision support. Clinical decision support means you are actually develop analytics tools to assist clinician in making decision. For the first time right now with Shrine, we're able to take a step forward, another level of innovation. We call the shared decision making, which actually for the first time, we're able to combine not only physician, but also the patient and the parents. So it becomes shared decision making. How do we do that? First of all, we're using the patient report outcome to train. Second one, we adopt the state-of-art large language model, ChatGPT. We actually engage the patient, the parent interview in the process, and then use that towards the decision making. So those are the three major innovation we're doing. In terms of detailed predictive project, intervention project, we have 7 of those that are enabled by our headquarters, the foundational setup, which actually these 7 different small projects are enabled by that foundational project.
Yeah, I think that's really exciting because when you have all of this data, like you said, from genetic data to maybe hospital data. Sorry, I have to cough. I'm fighting a cold. Um, I think that there's so many wonderful things we're going to be able to figure out and really be able to help some of these kids, like you said, with rare diseases, because one of the benefits of bringing all the hospital data together is that you get a lot of patients with these rare diseases brought together. Excuse me, sorry. And you can really learn more about the condition and how to look at it and how to think about kids as individuals and
Yes.
how to make medicine work for them specifically, like the precision medicine. But then
Yes.
also you can kind of look at the bigger picture and say, all right, I have a kid like X, Y, and Z, and they seem like these other kids who responded best to this treatment. So you can do kind of that phenotyping of kids and get cohorts of kids to show what might be best for them. And I think that that's a really exciting thing that will be happening in the future now that people are really starting to use AI and looking at healthcare. I
Very
do
true.
that if anybody has a question, feel free to put it in the chat. Christopher will let me know if anybody does. Um, but so may. So let's talk a little bit about challenges. What are some of the challenges with looking at all of this data? Because I know there's
So yeah, so there are actually the major challenge I would like to say, anytime you work on healthcare, is the patient population is heterogeneous, right? So that's why I think the emerging the urgent the need for investment should be focusing on implementation. While you're talking about the AI analytics solution, we have to really focus on implementation. So now coming down to some more detailed technical challenge. So the number one challenge is dirty data. Our healthcare data, unfortunately, contain a lot amount of artifacts, noise, missing data. In fact, it's being reported medical error is number 3 killer in the US, just after cancer and cardiovascular disease, because the issues. So that's why this is the number one critical challenge for any kind of AI project. If you want to have a responsible, safe AI, you need to clean up the data. The second challenge I actually already mentioned is multimodality data integration. It has been reported by FDA and some of the big organizations study showing that when the new AI modality being introduced, for example, medical genomic, the suggestion was opposite to clinicians' experience using purely lab result. A lot of time, clinician can no longer make a decision. So 1 + 1 is less than 1. So that's exactly why multimodality AI became one of the ongoing, fast-growing AI challenge, where how do we make sure 1 + 1 is greater than 2? So that's the second grand challenge. The third grand challenge is the real-time decision-making. You can have this wonderful AI model trained based on million people. However, when things happen in the emergency room, in the intensive care unit, all you need is one useful one for that particular patient and that point of care, the timeline. Unfortunately, however, a lot of AI like a model cannot be adjusted real time to that particular patient. So this becomes a third challenge. The fourth one is explainable AI. During COVID pandemic, at the peak time, MIT reported more than 600 tools and the AI algorithm being tried to catch COVID. 0 worked. It's a big bad news, shocking the entire AI community. 0 helped. What's the reason? One of the reason is the AI tool is a black box. Clinicians do not know if they use AI that killed the patient, who is liable for the death of the patient. So that's why the fourth grand challenge, how do we make AI model interpretable, explainable, and transparentable to our clinicians who are using them? The fifth one is the most hardest, but meanwhile is the most critical. Until today, we have very limited progress made in capture clinicians' inference ability, because all these years, more than 90%, all the AI tool is based on correlation. We have to be able to create a new model to capture the human cognition and the physician's causal inference. So that's the fifth grand challenge. The last one is related to emerging generative AI models, such as ChatGPT and large language model. There are hallucination, there are those issues. So those are the 6 grand challenges, technical challenges. But as I already said, the number one most critical challenge is focusing on implementation in making an AI model for heterogeneous phenotype of our patient cohort.
Yeah. So, and you touched on something there talking about clinicians and them making decisions. And AI is not really meant to replace a clinician. It's really meant to give them more information to help them make a better decision, I would say.
That's actually very insightful comment, Leah. In fact, AI can never replace a physician. As I already mentioned that until today, despite all this discussion about advanced AI, it's still based on the single neuron, right? Biology inspired, that's a single neuron. It's just you putting millions of neurons together, it become deep neural network, right? Until today, we have no model to model human cognition. We have no very limited model to model human inference ability. So that's why now the AI can replace the clinician. So far, AI can take care of simple, less complex cases only. The goal is to give a physician more time to interact with the patient and also to do more complex cases to compensate for the AI's inability to handle heterogeneous patient population.
Yeah. So we just talked about all of the challenges. What are some of the solutions for some of these challenges?
So among all the challenges, there are a couple of major progress made, especially inspired by the pandemic challenge we're facing. The first one is in terms of the data quality. For a long time, people have been using a very simple way to use the average to sub for the missing data. Unfortunately, the moment you do that, you completely distort the distribution of the real population, right? The patient population.
Yeah.
So currently, the advance is being made to subtype different kind of data quality issue. And then based on different subtype, for example, some data are missing, it's okay. It meant to be missing. Some are not meant to be missing. And then you are using the subtype to use redundant information from other modality to sub for it. So that's the progress made in the data quality challenge. In terms of multimodality integration, there have been already discovered that a lot of the modality either follow the complementary principle. Complementary principle means the two modality cannot replace each other. They add value to each other. And some of the modality are simply consistent principle. They complement each other. So you can missing information from one modality, you can derive from another modality. So that's why the major progress made is their discovery on all these different data modality. There are certain percentage of complementary, certain percentage of consistency. People have been using that to start making 1 + 1 greater than 2. It's actually it's the beginning of this breakthrough. So there much more to come, but it's already started making progress. In terms of real-time decision making, again, it's actually being discovered during the pandemic. How do you actually modify AI model trained based on million parameter customized to a local case? For example, including the current large language model. As some of us know, 3.5 is based on 175 billion parameter. The current 4.0 is based on trillion of parameter. You have no way to retrain those models. You have to customize to your local case. So currently, they have already major progress made recently in how to customize that model for your local case. In terms of explainable AI, that's the area made the most progress over the last few years. Right now, there are a lot of different, for example, using a feature visualization to help clinician understand. Even it's all nonlinear, like thousands of layers for deep neural network. However, you use a simple visualization to tell them that which feature contribute to the decision making. So clinicians can, based on the feature visualization, to decide which model they want to use.
Yeah. And I think what you touched on about the AI is already making advances between version 3.5 and version 4 is really, really remarkable. And I think one of the important things about that is that if you have a model that has seen trillions of data points and trillions of patients, no clinician is ever going to have been able to see a trillion patients, right? And so the model will see things that are really rare. And I think that that will help clinicians who maybe have not seen something before learn about things that other doctors have seen maybe once or twice. So I think for the rare disease patient, it's something that's going to be really spectacular for, or even rural patients who maybe aren't next to a major hospital system, or their doctor just doesn't see as many people because there just not as many people around that area. I think that as far as bringing healthcare, like top quality healthcare to everybody, I really believe that AI is going to help do that.
Absolutely. I think, Leah, you provide a very insightful a comment here. So one of the benefit AI bring in when we're talking about, right, trustworthy, responsible AI, the safe, is actually the benefit it bring to the clinicians. Where actually bring the fairness because it was trained on larger population. And in addition to that, it's also bring more insightful knowledge to clinicians. That's actually help them see the heterogeneous patient population, the types. So there are already multiple reports that how some clinicians utilize the ChatGPT, the most current version, to help them untangle a mystery for diagnosis, especially rare condition. So that's definitely is already showing its impact. The hallucination I mentioned early on, early days, the hallucination was about 12% to 15%. Right now, it's already dropped to 2 to 3%. So in fact, what it's called for right now is for more clinicians who have the domain knowledge to contribute to the base prompting to help the ChatGPT provide more meaningful answer to further reduce the hallucination.
Yeah, that's amazing and great because the hallucinations were something that really worried people in the beginning. ChatGPT is putting something out that sounds like it's a fact and giving you a reference, but in the end, it's all made up. And so that's not really helpful to anyone. And I know in healthcare, we have to be correct about things. We can't, rely on something that might give us something that it just made up.
Yeah.
So I know we're coming up at the end of our time. Christopher, do we have any questions? I will take silence as a no. Please, everybody, put a question in the chat if you'd like. But kind of as we wrap up, May, is there anything that you did not get to say that I did not ask you that you would like to highlight about AI and healthcare?
There definitely there's one thing. I honestly believe that education about AI in medicine is so critical, and it's going to help tremendously for healthcare providers to get the benefit and utilize it. And also it's going to help the parents and the patients, right, to learn what's going on, to also take ownership of their health. So in that regard, we haven't touched upon, but I do want to share that this is one of the major, I call it the opportunity to finally see AI is making a true impact, the implementation phase to benefit the people. So from collaboration perspective, data scientists, data engineers should work closely with our clinicians. And meanwhile, our parents and the patient all should join. I didn't mention about the metaverse. That's another project we're doing where a lot of kids can directly contribute while they're playing the video metaverse based on AI for their care. They're actually contributing to the AI itself in terms of solution. Those are the part I definitely want to highlight. It's the last piece, but it's also a very critical piece.
Great. And Christopher tells me that we have one question. So I know we're at time. If you want to stay on for just a minute and hear the response that May has for the question, great. But if not, we really appreciate you joining us today. Christopher, can you read me the question?
Yes. So this question is from Paul Snyder. He wants to know, beyond the patent input via ChatGPT you mentioned for shared decision making, which specific AI technologies are you using, and what exactly are you asking those technologies to do?
So right now, because the question started with ChatGPT, I'm only going to answer ChatGPT, but I can share with you on any of these major challenges. We have some very novel advancement. For example, metaverse project. We are the first one to introduce a digital twin in the healthcare. But I come back to the ChatGPT related. So on the ChatGPT related, as I mentioned, there are this hallucination challenge. There's another a benefit as well as the challenge is we don't have enough computing power to retrain that big model with a trillion parameters. So how do we contribute, right? We cannot touch the model. So what we can contribute is a lot of the, especially clinicians, especially people like us, we can contribute to prompting. Prompting means you feed in the knowledge itself through the Q&A with the chat GPT. So while you're doing that, it definitely help you, but people also worry about the hallucination, right? So then how do you deal with that? So we have been the one contribute to a novel knowledge in the healthcare. When we're people talking about the prompting retrieval, and we are the first one, our team at Georgia Tech, combining this initial idea of the retrieval, but we are the one augmented that kind of retrieval for healthcare, so that the clinicians from different backgrounds can all contributing, we augment. And then that work, because we did that with Microsoft as well as the clinicians directly, it was recognized by ACM for Best Paper Award. But more importantly, after that, we took a step further. We created what we call an agent. Right now, we have one agent that can probe multiple customized prompting for different medical specialty together, select the best answer, so we can improve the quality further. So this is a novel contribution. That's the whole reason Microsoft, the foundation research directly contact us, is supporting us to pursue this. So we can actually helping the healthcare to benefit while we have a heterogeneous patient population, while we have all kind of clinician practitioner from all different disciplines to jointly work together by having an AI agent to do that.
Wonderful. Well, we are at time, a little bit over. I want to thank you, Dr. Wang, for talking with us today and educating us a little bit about AI in healthcare and some of the things that you're doing. And I think this was great. This session is going to be recorded or has been recorded, so it will be made available afterwards for anyone who missed the session. But thank you so much for attending today, and everybody in the audience, and we really appreciate it. So thank you. Bye.
And thank Liam for your invitation again, and thank everyone.
Yeah.